Roundtable Sports Network brings you NFL divisional debate coverage on a weekly basis from your favorite content creators across YouTube, featuring the AFC East Roundtable live Monday and Wednesday evenings, the AFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST. The AFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST. The NFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. The AFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST. The NFC East Roundtable live Thursdays at 6 p.m. EST. Roundtable Sports. Real coverage from real fans.
What is going on, Roundtable Sports, and welcome to the first ever episode of Draftaholics here on the Roundtable Sports YouTube channel. My name is Colby Cochran, and I am joined by my co-host, Derek, Dose of Dion, and we got special guest, Brochmo, in the building. Are you kidding me? What the heck? We got the best damn draft and college football content creator for episode 1 of Draftaholics. Baby, this is just what Roundtable Sports does. In case you guys don't know what Draftaholics is, we are going to be doing everything involving the 2025 NFL Draft. Today, we are going to be talking about the top 5 quarterbacks in the 2025 NFL Draft. We are going to be doing breakdowns like this for every single position, getting you guys ready for the upcoming draft. Maybe next we'll do running backs, maybe tight ends, maybe wide receivers. You guys are just going to have to wait and find out. Little later on, probably, end of playoffs, end of Super Bowl. That's when we're going to start doing mock drafts. We are going to have on some of your favorite creators from Roundtable Sports for team-specific mock drafts, division mock drafts, and a network-wide 32-team NFL mock draft. It's going to be a lot of work. We don't know how we're going to do it yet, but it is going to be absolutely insane. Let's go around the table. Let's see how the fellas are doing. Derek, let's start with you.
Man, I'm doing great, man. Super excited to get involved in this. I mean, there's a couple different position groups that I cannot wait to talk about this season, this off season. And man, I can't wait to talk just basically NFL draft coverage with all you boys. Let's get it.
Let's go. What about you, Dose?
Man, I'm fired up. To hear that we're putting a show together, man, it's just, it adds motivation. It's like, okay, now I really want to do this. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm used to being in the spot. We're picking like top 5. So it's like, hey, man, we're 2 weeks into the season. We might start talking draft. Now it's a little bit different, but this is kind of the motivation factor, to get rolling a little bit earlier. So I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Dose, right? Like, you're used to probably your entire life picking in the top 5, having one of those top picks. You're doing your draft due diligence by week 2, but it's a little different for you now. You could have the 32nd pick in the first round this year, but you're acclimated to doing the draft process this early as a Lions fan. So now it's just in your DNA. You can't get it out of you.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It absolutely is. It's stuck there. It's ingrained. So here we are. And by the way, every fan, good team, bad team, everybody loves the draft. You can't really lose on draft day. You know what I mean? You kind of can, but you can't really. It's hard to find a fan that thinks we lost on draft. Everybody's fired up, man. So I love the draft.
Hey, man, I'm helping Dose come to realizations. This is free therapy. This is what Roundtable Sports does, baby. Free therapy live on show. But Brochmo, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I love the draft, and I can't wait to talk. I love talking about the draft, man. To me, that's like Christmas. Stinking love it.
Christmas.
Brochmo, we got Christmas right around the bend, too, and it's already here?
For me, it is. I mean, bowl season, and then we get to the off-season draft process, Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, Combine, Pro Days. See, Gojo's excited too. He's banging at my door.
Dude, everybody knows Kojo. If you watch Brochmo, which, Broshi, you have almost 50,000 subscribers. I'm pretty sure everybody knows Brochmo. You got to know who Kojo is. Now, Brochmo, why don't you let the people know real quick where they can find you?
You can find me on the Brochmo YouTube channel. I also do a little bit on the X. I say a little bit. I'm just out there memeing, having fun. That's about it. Simple life, man. Simple life.
So follow Broshmo on YouTube for all of the best draft content. Follow him on Twitter if you just want to see what Broshmo's doing, what Kojo's doing on a day-to-day basis. Dose, real quick, why don't you plug where the people can find you on a regular basis?
Those are the Dion 2.0, man, on YouTube. That's no draft stuff over there from me yet. It's coming. You know what I mean? I got to stay away from it because fans will get mad, Colby. You know what I mean? You can't stop drafting. You can't start dropping draft stuff just because we lost to the Bills. I know Dan's in the chat, so you know he's waiting for that. But yeah, those are Dion 2.0.
I know you have like a ton of injuries under the sun, but you're still a Super Bowl contender, Dose. And Dose, I have to ask you real quick. Dose of Dion 2.0. So when the Lions started doing good, did you like reset and do 2.0? And like when you guys were bad, was that Dose of Dion like 1.0?
Well, it actually worked out exactly like that. No, I didn't do that on purpose, but it actually lines up. No, I lost my first channel, man. It was a whole hack situation. You know what I mean? Everybody's kind of been there. This is just on
about that.
Yeah, it was at the extreme level. So I was like, you know what? Just go 2.0. You know what I mean? So it has kind of fit on that exact same timeline. So it's worked out well.
New and improved, baby. New and improved.
What about you, Derek? Let the people know where they can find your main content.
You guys can find BTJ Pod on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere that you guys listen to your podcast. Just look up Bring the Juice Colts podcast. You can also find us on Twitter at BTJ Pod, and you can just find me and my Twitter at Derek_larger.
And of course, if you guys want my content, Patriots-related content, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe at Patriots Global. But now, let's get into what everybody came for, and that is breaking down our lists for our top 5 quarterbacks. And Derek, want to start with you. Mine and your list, very, very similar, very slight difference, but let's get into Derek's first.
All right, so what do you think? Going 1 to 5, or should we go 5 to 1 first? What are you thinking?
You know what? Let's go 1 to 5. Let's start hot.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Number 1, I think it has to be Cam Ward right now. What you see from Cam Ward, I mean, you see an improviser. You know, you see a guy that can make almost any throw that is needed. You know, when I saw CJ Stroud, because I'm a huge Buckeye fan, you know, when I watch CJ Stroud, I look at it and I say, Stroud can make NFL throws. And that's a lot of times what I see from Cam Ward is, you know, he can make those NFL throws. He can make the kinds of plays out there that on any given Sunday, those are the kinds of plays that you need from a quarterback. So that's the kind of thing that I look forward to watching as he builds. And I know the work ethic that he puts in. I do think that the mechanics can mess with him sometimes. So be careful with that, because as he gets into the NFL, that could get him in a bad situation, but hopefully he'll continue to take good coaching and get better with that. Number 2, Shedeur Sanders. He's accurate. He's strong. He's an improviser as well. He can do just about everything. My big question about him, and it made me debate on whether I should drop him further. It has nothing to do with his talent. My big question about him is his leadership and how he will lead a franchise. I think some people may not view it as big of a deal as me specifically, but I've seen things that make me question whether or not this guy is going to be a long-term solution at an NFL quarterback. We've seen him call out players. We've seen him leave fields early to go to locker rooms. We've seen, and we know the inner circle that he has. Dion Sanders is the Sanders family name. He's big name. He's box office. He's going to come into the NFL regardless of where he goes, and he's going to be the big name. Everyone's going to talk about him. It's going to be him. How's he going to handle that? Because at times it doesn't look like he handles it insanely well. Now, obviously, he's going to come into the NFL already understanding how much hype and fame he already has. So that's not what I'm concerned about. My issue is, how is he going to present himself to his teammates and to his team and become, you know, their franchise quarterback? So that's my only concern right now with Sanders. It's a big concern, which is why I didn't have him at number 1. Number 3, I'll go Jalen Milroe. Looks like Lamar Jackson 2.0 to me. I mean, this is a guy that he is just dynamite in a box, dude. Like, he's ready to explode at any moment. And as good as he is with being able to move, even when he goes to the next level, yes, guys will be faster, guys will be stronger. But Milroe has just insane agility and a quick burst that is going to keep him from being sacked a lot of times when he first gets into the league, which is super, super important. I think the throwing skills, he'll continue to get better with that as time goes along. I don't think he's the greatest passer out there, but what you account from him with his ability to move is a huge opportunity for any team out there. They're going to want to take a chance on that because they know that's athleticism you just can't teach. You can teach him how to be a better thrower over time, but I think that those feet is what's going to keep him standing up. Number 4, got to be Quinn Ewers. Obviously, Quinn Ewers, who are a lot of people at the beginning of this season were wanting him to be the number 1 quarterback overall taken. He's just fallen off a little bit, man. I don't know what else to really tell you. I don't know if it's due to injury. I don't know if it's the issue of Arch Manning coming in and kind of taking some of the swagger in the middle of the season when he got injured. I don't 100% know, but definitely going to be interesting to see where he lands up because he's got great intangibles. He's got good skills. He can be a good QB with a lot of training. So if somebody thinks they can really put an effort into him, and if he stays committed, he 100% can be a good quarterback somewhere. Last one, number 5, and it was a surprising one. I don't know if anyone else has this guy on their list. Dylan Gabriel. Gabriel is cracking my top 5. He has great instincts, dude. I've watched this guy as the year has gone on. He looks like he has gotten more and more comfortable as the season has gone along, and he is beating up everyone right now. I mean, he has great instincts. He's starting to learn how to use his legs, which is a very vital part of his game. It was something that he wasn't doing at the beginning of the year, but then he started figuring it out right when Ohio State started playing him. And he's got great touch on the ball. He just knows how to put the ball where it belongs. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, the height, the size, that's going to be the big issue. I understand that. He's not quite the escapability artist of like what Bryce Young once was, but I think he's a much better pure thrower than what a lot of people are giving him credit for. I think he's a better thrower than guys like Kyler Murray and Bryce Young coming out of college. And I think that is going to get him into a good situation. So that's why I got him rounding out my list at 5.
So you definitely were the only one that had Dylan Gabriel. I do like Gabriel. I do think that he's getting better each and every single year. To me, he just screams NFL backup, right? Like he doesn't, to me, scream like somebody who is going to come in, be a franchise quarterback, someone who you can sit for a year and still become a franchise quarterback. But I respect him being at 5. Why? Because I don't know about you guys. I don't love this class.
No, I don't.
Comparing it to 2024 doesn't add up. 2023 doesn't add up. I would say it's closer to 2022, maybe a little bit better. But that's how bad it is. Like, I really don't believe that there is a true blue chip player here at quarterback, a game-changing player that you can truly say should go first overall because they deserve to do so. Now, I want to get the other guys' thoughts on this too. So, Dose, let's go down to you. What do you think about Derek's top 5?
I did have a side question for Derek real quick because I know he's the Colts fan. So I was just like, I don't know if y'all are in the market. I don't think necessarily you should be in the market. But as a Colts fan, if they were to draft a quarterback, would Cam Ward then be your choice? Like, would the guy that's number 1, would he be the guy that you would actually want them to take if you knew they were going to take a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be my choice if we were to actually get him. I know we're not in the market for one, at least not yet. And even if we were, ain't no shot we're getting up high enough to be able to get Cam Ward. So, you know, it's a pipe dream in and of itself. But yes, if I had a choice and Indianapolis was top 3 and Anthony Richardson was no longer our quarterback, then yes, I would take Cam Ward.
All right. Well, what about you, Broshi? What do you think about this?
I mean, I was on board with it until 5.
Oh,
I mean, to be fair, like, dude, I've been burnt in the past by these short Keens. These, like, dude,
Haven't we all?
Bryce Young hurt, man. Bryce Young hurt. And I don't think he's got the arm talent that Bryce, like, for me, I thought Bryce Young was pretty special despite the size. I thought how he just had how poised in the pocket, his ability to extend plays, go through his progressions and whatnot. And Gabriel, not say he doesn't do that, but it's definitely things are a lot more schemed up for him. Like I think his like screen rate this year is like 20%. And I mean, this is an Oregon team that's just drenched in talent. And I don't know, man. I don't think he's got the arm. I think I'm kind of on par with you, Patriot, where it's like, yeah, maybe a high level backup in the NFL. Like for me, it just screams like a day 3 pick. And I mean, to be fair, that's kind of this class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like realistically, if you look at Cam Ward, you look at Shador, the guys who are at the top, guys who people kind of go back and forth with who's going to be the number 1 guy. Again, you go back to the top quarterbacks in 2024. Where would he be? Right? He'd probably be pushed down all the way, both of those guys, to the second round. You look at to 2023, probably the same thing. I just don't love this quarterback class. I mean, I feel like every single year we know, okay, in the top 5, these are the guys that are guaranteed to go from 1 to 5, sometimes even 1 to 10. I'm looking at this draft right now. I can't even say confidently which guys are going to go from 1 to 3. I'm just not big on this draft class, period. But I'm also not big on this draft class when it comes to quarterbacks. That's why, for me personally, when the Patriots had to get a quarterback, and all these Patriots fans were saying, you don't have anything to build around a quarterback. Go Marvin Harrison Jr., then get a quarterback next year. I said, no. If you are in a position to get a quarterback and you have a high enough pick to get him this year, you do it. Because in 2025, that is not the time to need a quarterback. Now, Brochmel, like you said, you didn't like number 5 on this list. Where would you have personally gone? Would you have gone with Beck, Dart?
I would have had Carson Beck.
Oh,
I think he's a safer option. I mean, in terms of like, he's got the prototypical size. He might not have like the biggest arm, but like the dude is accurate for the most part. I know this year it's kind of been topsy-turvy. I think a lot of that is chemistry. I'm not trying to like push blame elsewhere. Again, hey, get chemistry with your guys during the offseason. What are you doing? But like a lot of that was the turnover. The guys like Ladd and Brock Bowers and whatnot. But in this year, you've seen him have to like get a little more risque. I saw it in the second half of that Clemson game. Worked out. Had against Alabama, like it came alive in that second half. Like he's had his, I guess, back to the wall at points this year. So it's like I feel like he's tested. He's tested. He might not have elite arm talent, but I think he could be probably a quality starter. And maybe like you're kind of hoping maybe he can be a top half of the NFL type of starter. But then again, we're talking about a guy that's probably going to be like a 3rd round pick. Like, so.
Now, what do you guys think about this? So with Jalen Milroe, I know, Derek, you said Lamar, and maybe that is a better comp. What do you guys think about like a shades of like a Jalen Hurts a little bit? What do you guys think about that with the Jalen Milroe? You guys don't see Jalen Hurts at all? What about you, Brosh?
I think he's a better athlete than Jalen Hurts.
Way better athlete.
Just not as good of a passer?
Well, no. I mean, to be fair, Hurts coming out, it's not like he was center of the world on fire. You want to talk about screens and RPOs, like he was playing for Lincoln Riley, like that final year, right? Was it Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma? Yeah, at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was. It was Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, he was definitely I would say he was a more polished passer. I would say I don't think Jalen didn't push the ball down the field as much as Milroe does, but then again, like that feels a lot of what Milroe's game is. It's either deep down the field or he's taking off. That just feels like a lot of what his game is. And obviously Alabama has a couple of really good wide receivers to be able to throw the football deep down the field and just make a play. So that kind of is what it is.
I think the crazy concept is we can see Jalen return to school.
Really?
Maybe.
Losing
See if we can
Broshmo.
see Broshmo return. You know
Lost
what I
him.
mean? Hey,
Lost him there.
The return of
he's-
Broshmo.
he's about to make a good point.
And the
too.
return of
return of
Jalen
Broshmo.
Milroe to college.
Dude, Broshmo just left us on like the absolute
Biggest-
largest cliff. He could go to the NFL, but he could not.
Now the funny part is,
Find out next
the funny
week.
part is obviously Drew Allar obviously returned to school this last week,
That's a great point, Derek.
and had he not, I could have probably had put him here at number 5. So it kind of messed me up. But to kind of go off the point of what he was saying earlier, I mean, it's number 5. That's the issue. Is after that point, you're starting to talk about like, oh, that like nobody at this point's a starter. You know, everything is opinionated at this point because there's not a lot of, there's speculation about where somebody can go, where somebody can do this. And the last point I'll make, I trust the Dylan Gabriel tape over a bunch of other guys here in this. Dylan Gabriel does not have accuracy issues to me. A lot of these other guys, they have accuracy issues. So that's mainly why I put him here at 5.
Now, Broshmo, you left us on a bit of a cliff. You said that Jalen Milroe might not enter the NFL. Maybe he stays at Alabama. Why don't you finish that thought?
Apparently, my PC hated that take. Immediately just shut off.
They said, all right, Broshmo, you're done. Get out.
So, I mean,
Get out, dude.
yeah, right. So, no playoff, right? No playoff for this squad. So, I think there's going to be some sort of encouragement for players maybe to return. We're also seeing some guys start to hit the transfer portal, but is what it is. But I think Milroe probably thinks he could probably be a top 10 quarterback in a draft. So I think there might be that, hey, let me get some more, rather than being drafted as a developmental guy that might not necessarily see early playing time. Let me continue to develop as a passer, because quite frankly, the best way to do that is with real game experience. And hey, you're going to be the starter next year. You're going to, again, have that back against the wall. It's the SEC. Not everybody apparently makes it in a 12-team playoff in the SEC. So I think with Milroe, and I think honestly Quinn Ewers potentially could transfer. I'm kind of curious to see what the NFL thinks about Ewers in terms of like the injuries. And it's like been small injuries, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Broshmo, too. I want to get your quick thoughts on this. So, obviously, we're just starting the 2025 process. And honestly, we're starting earlier. Yeah. Broshmo does this year round. So, we're just starting the draft process. Broshmo's been doing this for like quite literally a year. But what do you think your early thoughts of the quarterback class, at least what's expected in 2026? Because you kind of threw out this idea of Jalen Milroe going back to Alabama. If he does, that's more than likely because he wants to improve his draft stock. Do you think that, I mean, we have him as number 3 right now. Do you think that if he does go back to college, that in 2026, he can come back as even a larger prospect?
Yeah, because I don't think the NFL is going to oppose, with the Raiders, the Giants, they're probably going to force the issue at quarterback. They're kind of in situations. Kind of depends, I guess, what the offseason, if they're going to have new head coaching staffs, new front offices. We'll see with that. But outside of that, I think we've seen the NFL going back to like it was 2022, where they're like, oh, we don't like this quarterback class, screw the position, and where they just totally just threw it to the wayside. We didn't see a lot of those guys come off the board until like the 3rd round, outside of like a Kenny Pickett. So Milroe, if he's like, hey, I think I can push to be a top 10 pick, I could solidify my status like that. I think he would, because outside of maybe a team traded up in the back half of the 1st round, I just don't see it with him as a surefire 1st rounder right now.
Yeah, mock drafts are going to be really, really fun this year, just because I think we're all going to have different ideas and different placements of players. Because like I alluded to earlier, this just doesn't feel like one of those draft class where you can kind of accurately say, this is where the top 5, this is where the top 10 is going to go, and feel confident about it. Anything could happen at 1, anything could happen at 10. So let's go ahead and let's get into my list, because my list is very, very similar to Derek's. So it makes sense to kind of just bounce off back and forth.
See, that makes sense.
Broshmo immediately liked my list. So I already feel accomplished. I feel like I don't need to break it down. Broshmo gave it the stamp of approval. We can end the show and I can feel confident about my list.
To be fair, my top 5 had a height requirement. So
Oh,
yeah.
I don't blame you. I
height
don't
matters.
blame you.
I do think height matters, but I didn't exactly take that into account when doing this. Cam Ward to me, unarguably the best talent at quarterback in this draft class. I know that a lot of people go between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. To me, are we basing this off of talent? Who should realistically go first? Or are we basing this off of popularity? Are we basing this off of aura? Because last time I checked, popularity and aura do not help you when trying to find your franchise quarterback.
Right.
But Cam Ward, Derek, I think you hit all these guys nail on the head perfectly. But Cam Ward, highest QBR amongst quarterbacks in 2024. I think he improved very, very well on a year-to-year basis. My only flaw with Cam Ward is that I do feel like he tries to do a little bit too much. Lost the game against Georgia Tech because of it. You got to know when to throw the ball away, right? Mm-hmm. You got to know when to make the smart play, take the sack, live to see another down, especially in the NFL where the competition level, it's only going to get harder. And I don't, when I say this comparison, I don't mean in terms of playing style, but when his weaknesses come in, it reminds me of Mac Jones, right? Mac Jones was very, very good in the beginning of his career. Why did Mac Jones fall off? Well, this is a loaded question. There's a lot of different things, but one of the biggest reasons that Mac Jones fell off is because he tried to start playing hero football, throwing off his back foot, throwing on the run, which is something that's not in his repertoire. He'll be in like a 2nd and 15. He'll take a sack for minus 15 on top of that because he's trying to do too much. That's the issue with Cam Ward. Don't put your offense in a bind. Keep your offense in a position to succeed. And I think that is the biggest thing that he has to improve upon. But I think that just comes with patience and confidence within your own system. With all of these quarterbacks too, I feel like there is a beautiful blueprint that has been laid out on sitting quarterbacks. And I think that this is a perfect class for all of these quarterbacks to at least sit for a certain period of time. Whether it's multiple years like Jordan Love, whether it's half the season, or not half the season, but roughly half the season like Drake May just did, whether it's only for the first month, for the first couple of weeks, sitting a quarterback for a certain period of time has shown to do wonders. You look at Bryce Young even as of late, right? They didn't sit Bryce Young at first. He sucked, looked like a bust, first overall, but then they sit him for a couple of weeks, and since then, he has come back in the same season and looked like a different quarterback. Now, as for Sanders, I'm sorry, just no way, shape, or form should he be quarterback one. Is his draft stock rising because he deserves it? To a degree, but I also think that his draft stock is rising because of Dion Sanders. Again, comes back to the popularity, comes back to the aura. When you hear a quarterback's name that is constantly being talked about, that's constantly in articles, that's constantly on social media, it's not Cam Ward. It's Shedeur Sanders. And I think that's why a lot of people are talking about him. My biggest question for him is the personality, the off-the-field drama. Is that going to be a problem? He's giving me a little bit like Caleb Williams vibes already, where, we heard during the process, Caleb Williams, he wants to go to the perfect destination. He needs this, he needs that. If the Bears try to take him, he's going to decline it. Like all this crap. And I'm already getting some of those same vibes. He's giving me a little bit of diva vibes, and I don't like it. Very athletic, good arm, more than confident. He has what it needs to succeed as a quarterback in the NFL. But if he's going to be a diva, I think that's going to take away from what he could potentially do. In football, you have to put the team first. And if he can't do that and put the team on his shoulder, then I think he's going to fail in the NFL. When it comes down to Milroe, I think we kind of hit on this guy pretty perfectly at this point. 4 touchdowns against Georgia, great mobile quarterback, very athletic. Also didn't really take over till 2023. So I do think there is still a level of rawness to his game. I think, still has to develop a little bit. And I feel like he's the perfect type of quarterback, which I alluded to a little bit earlier. Just sit him. Just sit him for an entire year, because I think he has all the intangibles to be a true franchise quarterback. He just has to get a little bit more acclimated, especially as he enters the NFL. Now, when it comes to Quinn Ewers, honestly, I think you can make a case for Quinn Ewers even being 3. Like, I like Quinn Ewers. I think the biggest concern comes down to those injuries. If he didn't have these injury questions, he was a little bit more consistent with being in games, because the best ability in not just football, but in sports, is availability. And if he was a little bit more available, could he rise up draft boards a little bit more? I'm a big Quinn Ewers fan. I remember doing my due diligence on him last year when I thought he was going to be in the 2024 class. Obviously, he elects to stay. Now he's coming out in 2025. Broshma, I know that you think that there's a possibility maybe he ends up staying again. Who
Money
knows?
talks, not staying. I think he could hit the transfer portal.
Hits the transfer portal, doesn't stay there, but hits the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Obviously a possibility. Can he play against NFL competition? That's one of my big things that I wrote down. But 2022, 2023, both those seasons had almost 6,000 yards and almost put up nearly 40 touchdowns in both of those seasons too. Again, I think he has the ability to be an NFL quarterback, but those injury concerns are definitely going to bring down that stock a little bit. Thankfully for him, though, maybe it won't matter all that much because it's just not a good quarterback class. And then when it comes down to Carson Beck, I don't know if I was going to put Beck here, if I was going to put Dart here, but I look at it and I say, do I like Carson Beck? No. Carson Beck gives me already some like Kenny Pickett type vibes. Like he has enough mobility to get passed through the NFL.
He probably has bigger hands.
Mobile enough. I don't know if Carson Beck is mobile enough for me. I mean, he has the height, he has the size to play the quarterback position. So like there's that, but I also believe that the NFL is recency bias. What have you done for me lately? And let's be honest, his draft stock is falling. It is plummeting on a week-to-week basis. His passer rating, it's gotten worse every single year. It went from 128 in 2022 to 114 in 2023, 97.7 in 2024. Not super athletic, like I said, but I do think he is athletic enough. 3 interceptions, though, against Alabama. Can he play against that top-tier talent? Also don't like the personality, right? We heard about the social media stuff. I'm not gonna talk about it on here. If you want to know what it is, go to Twitter and look up Carson Beck and you'll find everything yourself. I'm not gonna mention it, but also blamed his running game for poor play. I question the maturity level of Carson Beck also.
When did he say that?
You didn't see that?
No, I didn't see that at all.
Game. Yeah, he blamed his running game for the poor play. And to me, I wonder, Zach Wilson? Right, because Zach Wilson had intangibles to be a good quarterback, but he didn't put things together because he was so immature. It was that immaturity that got in the way of his development at the next level. And I wonder about these same things with Carson Beck. Now, Beck had the potential to be the number 1 quarterback in this class. But again, that stock is plummeting. I wonder if teams will have recency bias and say, because of how you are now, your stock's going to plummet, or if they're going to say, you were once arguably the first quarterback on the board. We still believe that there's potential in you that we can tap, so your stock is still going to rise. But that's my list. Let's go down to Broshmo first. What do you think about this?
I mean, I like the list.
It bugs.
I feel like it's little cookie cutter to, or at least what I have. It's pretty close.
Cookie cutter? What'd you have?
This is actually the exact same rankings that I have.
Really?
Yeah,
Let's go, bro.
Yeah, but I mean,
So close.
Hey, whoa!
I was really close to putting Jackson Dart at 5 because like
That's what I said.
I'm a big Jackson Dart mart. It's just golly, Lane Kiffin, that offense. We saw Matt Corral get drafted, do nothing, and he's a better player, better prospect than Matt Corral. But
Broshmo, I do have to let you know. I originally had Alar at 5.
I would have too had he. Yeah,
I think I had him. He would be 3 or 4 for me.
Okay,
like for him in Milrow, because I mean those are the toolsy guys.
I would have honestly put Alar at 4 and then Ewers at 5. To be completely honest with you.
Ooh, okay.
Probably what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, dude, Ewers. And it's not like, injury. It's like injury concern. It's not like he had like something that kept him out for a year. It's like he's just missing time every year. Injury to both shoulders. He had the abdominal, and I think it's an ankle injury this year that's been limiting him. And he's been just utterly like not great since coming back from the injury. So it's like so hard to get a accurate feel or just some sort of perception on what Quinn Ewers can be.
And one thing I'll add to that, and it was something I wanted to say earlier, for some reason, to me specifically, I think he has gotten worse at picking up pressure. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's like super comfortable behind that offensive line and he just feels like he doesn't have to avoid pressure. But I've seen like some of the times in the big games where he'll take sacks and just look like he had no idea it was coming. None at all. I've seen him just get absolutely smoked by guys just out of the blue. And it's like, dude, how do you not have the better pocket awareness than that? I mean, my guy, Anthony Richardson, who, again, everybody just loves to clown on for what's going on, but Anthony Richardson has some amazing pocket awareness, is able to get away from a lot of sacks because of it. I mean, and that kind of stuff, when you get to the NFL, that stuff only gets more amplified. So if you're not doing it very well in college, at least not right now, then that's going to be a major concern when he has to have very good pocket awareness if he wants to be a actual NFL quarterback.
And that's a good point you brought up, because I want to know how much of that is the ankle, right?
Yeah.
Like just not believing in it. But
I don't know, man. I was really going back and forth with Carson Beck, but I can't be the only one that sees this dude. And every single time I turn on my screen, I got to do a little like, whoa, like this dude's scary looking, right? Like it's not just me. Like Carson Beck just looks like the type of dude you stay away from.
Well,
this is gonna get clipped. I'm gonna see myself on social media later. But Carson Beck is the type of person you keep your child away from.
What did that do for the other team, though? Scary for the other team too. You know what I mean? Both sides of this.
Right. You know what, Dose? I think it's time that we show your list, because everything's been perfect, little cookie cutter, a little back and forth. We're like, all right, I like
nothing wrong with cookie cutter.
Maybe I would change this. And then you know what? Dose sent me his list. All right, guys. And when I tell you, I thought my phone was glitching. I literally texted him and I was like, are you sure, Dose? Like,
He said,
like,
is your
It's bad enough. It's bad enough.
Okay?
I have to actually listen to the explanations behind why he made some of these decisions. I have to.
Dose, you have the rest of the show, because you need like a 5-minute explanation on all of these guys. Let's bring up Dose's list. This is his top 5 quarterbacks.
I'm for it. I'm all for it.
See, they're crazy. It's very similar to what you guys had. Very similar. You guys both, you had Carson Beck on the list. I'll go at 1. Basically the same thing. No, I mean, look, man, first off, I have Cam Ward-Shedeur right there, 2 and 3. So we are in the same ballpark there. I think this goes back to an earlier point that was made. This quarterback class, I don't think is that good. And I just got to that point where I didn't feel like there was a huge separator from anybody. And I wasn't like, this is the guy. Let me put him here. There's a reason for. So I come back to Carson Beck, and I'm sure this will change in time. But for me overall, I put these guys, everything that I've seen so far, I think Carson Beck, any given day, is the most accurate quarterback of these 5. I think this is the guy that I would trust that he's going to. Now, there's a lot of things that need to happen here, right? You talk about the concerns about leadership like that. You can watch and write that down. That's a concern. You watch him and you can write down like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know how well he's going to lead. And then offensively, like, they haven't been the best supporting cast this season. You know, they'll go stretches just dropping every pass throw in their direction. And I think there's a lot that needs to be added in terms of he just needs more time. I feel like there just needs to, and I don't know that it'll get there in the NFL. Maybe the right offensive mind gets it there. But one thing that I've had to really focus on over the years with the quarterback position is I got to put a lot more stock into just their ability to put the ball where the ball needs to be. Can he throw it with leverage against man coverage, right? Can he put the ball down the way and protect somebody? I mean, he's hitting seam shots. He's dropping them over the shoulder, and I'm watching it, and it's just from a consistency spot, I think there's a lot of things that probably still need to be dialed in. You know, I feel like, for one, his base gets all out of whack. And as soon as that happens, the pass is not accurate anymore. But when things are right, I think that he throws the ball maybe better than anybody I've seen in this draft class. So overall, I'm willing to lean on that because I don't think there's a clear-cut number 1 that's great at everything. I don't know if there's anybody that's good at everything. So for him, I'd lean on, I think that there could be a really high-level trait there that if in the right spot, I mean, he's loose with the football a little bit. There's questions about the leadership. He acts a little goofy sometimes. There's no doubt about that. But in the right spot, I buy into the fact that this is a guy that can actually give me a real ceiling. And I think that if you had him with the right mind, you could see like real flashes like, oh, this guy can put the ball where a lot of guys can't. And that's worthy of being a high draft pick. So for now, I'm high on Carson Beck. You know what I mean? That might change in time. There's no doubt. You know what I mean? Like this is not, well, I guess this isn't
the combine. Huntos?
Combine? It could absolutely drive it to combine. I mean, I don't want to do it because of the combine, but I'm just, any time this thing could absolutely move. But for now, I'm willing to roll with Carson Beck. Now, the 2 and 3, I don't need to spend much time here because you guys were, kind of the exact same on this. The Cam Ward one, though, I will say this. He's actually probably, for me, the most likely to drop, I think, out of anybody. I mean, I could drop Beck. I think Cam Ward, for me, is the most likely to drop. I just feel like in a lot of ways, like, I needed to speed up. And I think it was really what you were saying, Colby. I just think a lot of it is like, man, I just don't see this working at the NFL. It's like whether it's just getting the ball out of your hands, holding the ball too long. And it's just, when I watch him throw, I think there's a lot of occasions where you feel the ball kind of rise on him. And it feels like it's getting up. He's an athlete that makes some ridiculous throws. And then there's flashes of like, that was incredible. That was amazing. But then I feel like as soon as the pot collapses, it feels like he gets small. I think there's red flags that could rear their head there. And I don't know how well he can actually overcome some of those issues. But I think also, as Derek pointed out earlier, he might be the best improviser in the draft, probably outside of Shedeur, who I put at number 3. And Shedeur Sanders is a weird one, man, because Shedeur, it's like, I just don't know with this guy. I really don't. I think with Shedeur Sanders, man, there's a lot of things there where I hate how much it fades. There's so many of his plays that I feel like fade. That I don't think enough things stay on script. Some of that's to Colorado, and the offensive line gets played. But there's other times where he has the pocket and it just feels like everything fades. If it's not there, let me move out of the pocket. Let me turn around and run backwards. And it's just like, from a consistency spot, how am I willing to bet on that carrying over game after game, play after play, that's going to turn into something? I can't have that be a habit, and I think we're creating bad habits right now. So for me, I'm weird on Shedeur because I think that he could throw one of the prettiest balls in this draft class. I mean, he could do it with a lot of his upper body. He throws on the move way better than Carson Beck does, but I just don't like the habits that I feel like could be formed there. And then everybody's guy, but no one put him in the top 5 for some reason. That's fine with me. They'll be on there soon. Curtis Rourke. I couldn't say his last name a few days ago, but I got it. Indiana. Look, man, this guy to me, as a guy that was a big Aiden O'Connell guy when he came out, I can't help but get some vibes of O'Connell, and I think this is in a much better package. Like, I think this guy actually has a lot of the traits that you would look for in terms of build, in terms of size. I don't think he has any kind of monster arm, and I think that little things can kind of take him off of looking like the same player whatsoever. But in terms of just being able to kind of process what's going on, feel like you could put him into an NFL style and maybe there's a ceiling of like he could be a backup. Like this guy could be a very formidable backup in the NFL that you would trust. I feel like he can do that. Like this is one of those guys that's not going to throw you off track. He's going to keep you on pace. If things are working well, he'll stay 100% passing in the game. And I love how he works sideline to sideline. Like I don't get that with a lot of guys. There's guys that I feel like it turns into half field like that. Like Carson Beck does that to me and I hate it. You know what I mean? Well, you'll just see him start to go away from guys, and it's like, let me just see if that slant gets open. And you're like, what? Look somewhere else. But with Curtis, I feel like I get everything. I get all of that on the table without a kind of freaky athleticism or a big arm, but he has the size and it shows up in the pocket. And I do think that this is one of those guys that's just one of the smarter quarterbacks. And then I wrap it with Jalen Milroe because Jalen Milroe is one of these guys that I feel like he plays really fast when he's in the environment that he's comfortable in. And that's where, to Broshmo's point, if that means coming back to college, if that means Colby sitting, whatever that may mean, I feel like he plays at a different speed than everybody else. When it's something like if he's running one of those he's fast on RPOs, he's got a rapid release, you get him on the mesh, everything looks good. But as soon as like I feel like Morris gets thrown on the plate, I think it's going to pull back. I think his play speed's going to dial way back, and that's not how he's at his best. Jalen needs things to play fast. So I think the Hurts comparison isn't terrible because I think if you throw Jalen Hurts and you look at what he is for that offense, you make a drop back passing, he's not the same. And everybody's like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is the same team. So you don't ask him to do that. Jalen might be one of those guys that you pull some things off and you let him go be spectacular at times. And I think that's okay. I don't know how much he'll end up putting on his plate, but when he's playing as fast, that's when he's at his best. So for me, he falls in at number 5 because he's electric.
Dude, the fact that Ewers is not on this list.
I'm worried about Ewers. I'm worried about Ewers. I was listening to y'all. I'm worried. I'm worried.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
What are your biggest worries with Ewers?
I'll go to my straight. And you guys brought up injuries, and I'm fine with, and I'm with you on that. I hate how it doesn't feel like there's any kind of change of pace. I mean, every time he throws the football, I feel like everything looks the same. And I feel like when I watch other quarterbacks, like I can get, like a guy like Beck. Beck can give me a little bit different. I like there's certain guys maybe don't give me the arm angles, and that's fine. I feel like with Ewers, I get the same ball every time he throws it, and I just don't feel like, I don't know if that's maybe I got to go back watch some earlier years. You know, maybe I haven't got into that. Maybe that's where I'm missing because I just don't feel like anything looks different. And I feel like in situations you have to throw a different ball in the NFL. It's not about placement all the time. Sometimes it's timing, and timing leads to accuracy. So if I'm throwing this ball the same way every time, we get into trouble. I just don't trust the pacing. And to me, that comes back to feel from the quarterback position. I don't think if there's a natural feel there from Ewers, but maybe I'm just missing out. 2023 was different, and y'all can tell me I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look at Rourke, and I remember when his brother came to New England. It was during the 2023 season. It was like the second half of the year. They released Mac Jones in the offseason. Everybody was like, Rourke, he was so good in college. Like, he's going to be the franchise quarterback for New England. I was like, no, he's not. Great in college, just didn't make that transition to the NFL. And I'm just getting those same vibes with Curtis Rourke here. Maybe his brother just gave me PTSD, but those are just the vibes I'm getting. I do think he's improving. I think he's improving on a year-to-year basis. But to me, he just screams another one of those situations where at best, I think he's going to be a very good backup quarterback in the NFL. He's going to be a journeyman guy, but he's never going to be someone that you can truly build your offense around, or that is going to be your franchise quarterback. But let's go ahead and let's go over to you, Derek. What do you think about this list?
Kind of shows you the state of this quarterback class, doesn't it?
It really does.
The number 4 guy on Dion's top 5 quarterbacks in this draft class, and we're calling him a career backup already. Here's the thing. So, and you know what? To be completely honest with you, I'd throw a curveball out here. I would definitely put Rourke over Carson Beck, to be completely honest with you. And the main reason I say that is Curtis Rourke, when he went from Ohio to Indiana, he not only threw, I got to look at his actual pass attempts. So this season, he threw less passing attempts than he did in 2023, but completed more passes this year than what he had done before. And all of his numbers have skyrocketed. That's the difference. Is he went from a MAC school to Indiana again, and Indiana doesn't have like this elite level of talent. They don't have a ton of talent. They have very few guys that are probably even going to make it to the NFL anyways. But he went from a 63.5% completion percentage last year to completing over 70% against the Big Ten of all things. The Big Ten has a lot of really good defenses. And he has less turnovers this year than he did when he was in Ohio, and his touchdown numbers have almost tripled. I mean, the numbers have skyrocketed by a lot. So it shows you just how comfortable he has become. And I mean, how much of that is coaching? How much of that is him coming into his own? I'm not 100% sure. But I do think he has gotten a lot more comfortable playing against some good teams. And obviously, he's had a couple. His really only bad performance this year was against Ohio State. Now, of course, Ohio State has, I think about 9 different guys on that defense that are going to get drafted this year at some point. So he had to face a lot of really good competition, and Indiana just wasn't prepared to play in Ohio Stadium that game. But, I mean, Curtis Rourke definitely is a guy that could be very much interesting. He is a guy that I could see kind of like, I don't know who in particular is the best scenario for this. I don't know what comp it is, but like, many, many years down the line when he starts getting comfortable in a backup scheme and then his number is called to be the quarterback for a next few years, he could do like a Ryan Fitzpatrick thing where like, he just keeps moving from team to team and, he gets a few contracts just to, be a bridge quarterback for a couple of different teams until they try to find the franchise guy. But, I like Curtis Rourke. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he does tomorrow night against Notre Dame in that defense, though.
Derek, I will say real quick, it sounds like you should have put him at 4. I mean, you were making the case for him. I didn't need to say it. I just threw it back to you. Derek, you tell him why he's at 4. I don't know where he was. You broke it down.
What about you, Brochman? What do you think about this list?
Oh, man. So when I think of who do I want as my number 1 quarterback, I always go to tools because that's what's going to get drafted in the first round. Carson Beck, him coming into the year, it was like, hey, that pinpoint accuracy. And then this year, again, a lot of that's been a bit troublesome, but also you've seen the big play moments, him being able to battle back against that Alabama and big performances against Texas and whatnot. But yeah, man, Beck's, I didn't even love him coming into the year.
Now you love him. Now you love him.
Beck don't have McConaughey and Bowers to throw the football to anymore.
I was about to say, there's no way you guys have Carson Beck rising, right? Like, I have this guy falling throughout the draft process. His pressure grade was rough. I mean, he was 9th in the nation in screen yards with 588. Like, he wasn't good last year.
Like,
he throws a good screen.
Good ball plays. He throws a good screen.
He's good ball plays, man. He throws a good screen.
Tyreek, he'll be fine.
Yeah, like, honestly, he's a little better under pressure than you expect. Because I think he does a good job of keeping his composure. It's just this year, some of it's been unlucky for him interception wise, and some of it's been okay. Why are you putting it there? What the hell's going on? But
I don't know, it's just the amount of drop off though is concerning. Like that's what concerns me the most is the amount of drop off. Like, I mean, obviously, like you look at guys like CJ Stroud, who, you know, he went from throwing 72% completion percentage his first year when he had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, those guys. But then he was still throwing 66.5% the next year, even when he was dealing with injuries, when really his only true weapon that he had was Marvin Harrison coming into his own that year. And Jackson Smith and Jigba was hurt half the year. And Buka was hurt for a good chunk of the year. I mean, you know, he lost all his real weapons and still was able to complete nearly 67%. But I mean, it's a huge drop off for Carson Beck. I mean, it's almost a 10% drop off. I mean, that's a big drop.
Yeah. Well, speaking of drops, he's had a lot of drops this year from his receivers, from his pass catchers. I mean, dude, Oscar Delp didn't decide to show up till the last like month of the season. That was a guy I thought was going to be like going for tight end 1, and he basically opted out for like the first 8 games.
So Dose, what I'm kind of seeing here with your list is that with Carson Beck, you believe that a team is going to think we can tap into that potential. We can tap into the potential that we once saw, and that they're not going to necessarily buy into this recency bias on, you know, the stock falling, the social media problems, throwing, you know, his team under the bus, but more so, okay, you were good at one point. You were a top echelon quarterback at one point. We're just going to build around you the correct way, do everything we need to do to surround you with the right pieces, and we can make you what you once were.
I mean, I think that's I don't think he'll be the first pick in the draft. I would not bet on that at all. Like, he won't be the first quarterback off. I don't believe that's possible. But for me, like, it just comes back to, like, and you guys make good points there, where it's like, it feels like even now with Georgia, there's a lot of times where it feels like there's an inconsistency for guys to find just guys that are going to win. Like, if we have a design to go to this guy, he may not win on that play. So now all of a sudden, I don't think he's had the best response to that. I think there's too many. Like, I thought Alabama was a great example, right? There were some interceptions. Didn't think they were really even all his fault. The first interception, the guy moves out of the way, and then he throws it to him, and it's like, man, where are you going on the play? So I still didn't hate that interception. But it also, to me, it's like Malachi Moore in that game was giving him problems. I mean, you could just see the safety. I mean, the way that they kind of play their coverage in the back end, they got guys dropping out. I just think that, if anything, it's going to force him to kind of open his eyes a little bit more. Like, yo, you have to be able to see what different teams are presenting you. So I think that a team would be willing to bet on him, not in the first round, but a team would be willing to bet on him based on the accuracy. And I think that he has a really high potential to flip that versus some of these other guys where if there's not something I can really like, what can I like latch onto that I can believe that there's something here in the future. I think there's a lot of average traits in this draft class. I think Carson Beck has a chance to press into, I have a great accuracy. I don't think it's there yet, but I think it's close. And I think that if there was something I could lean on from a lot of these guys, there's not a lot I can trust. I could trust that I think Beck can throw a good football if he knows where to go with the ball.
So I have a question. So when you put this list together, were any of these guys like a first rounder to you?
No, okay. I wouldn't draft any of these guys in the first
This
round.
list makes a lot more sense with that.
You should have started with that Dose. We should have put like a disclaimer at the bottom.
There will be. I mean, we know that at least one's going first round.
That's the point. Yeah, just because
but I wouldn't do it.
Take any of them there doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Well,
I mean, we saw 6 quarterbacks get taken in the top 12 picks last year. I mean, that never happens.
There's a real chance you have Cam Ward and Shador both going in the top 5, but that just screams to the value of the quarterback position and not the overall talent.
I think
but Brochno did point out that's missed before.
Yeah, I think
2022, right?
3 of these guys get taken in the first round. I think Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, and Jalen Milroe. That's me personally. I think those 3 get taken first round.
I don't know, I'm really riding on Jalen's coming back, but
if he does, we'll make an adjustment.
Yeah, I think the problem is though, like I don't think any of these quarterbacks are like worth a top 20 pick. But given like the situations, like if it's still Antonio Pierce there with the Raiders, he's going to need something to latch on to. If it's still Brian Daboll, he hasn't been able to draft his guy because he's been stuck with Danny Dimes since arriving. Now he's on the hot seat. He's going to have to draft his guy. Like that's like the unfortunate truth for those two teams. So it's like, I feel like we know at the very least, I think Shedur's probably going to go off the board first. And then I'm going to be curious where that next team, where they feel or think Cam Ward is. Because
I think so.
I
think Ward could have a lot of. Personally, I think Ward has, from what I've said, I think Ward has a lot of. I think there could be a team that loves him, there could be a lot of teams that don't like him at all. Like for me, like I said, I think he's my most likely to drop from 2. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like I have Ward at 1 just because I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna bet on a guy with the tools, then yeah. But if my job's on the line, give me Shedur, dude. Give me the guy I could just plug in.
I completely agree.
Unless you're a team that he doesn't want to go to.
We had that last year.
Let me rephrase that. A team that Dion doesn't want him to go to. That's the question. Bro, I have never seen. I don't know if it is a PR stunt. I don't know if he actually means it when he says it. I have never seen such a PR job be done to where a coach which is obviously the dad of a player that is about to get drafted high in the draft, is telling people that I refuse to allow my son to go play for only a few specific teams. Only a few specific teams that he wants to go to. I mean, think how stupid that is.
Well, that goes back to those off-field issues too, right, Derek? Like, I mean, we even heard this last year. We heard this last year where he was like, if I'm not going to be like a top 2 or a top 3 pick, like I'm not entering the draft or when we knew that this was how it's going to be. That's why, again, to me, his biggest concern is those personality problems.
And I think it's also going to be, it cannot be allowed. That cannot be something that can be allowed consistently, because it is going to hurt the integrity of the NFL if that is indeed what's going to happen, because we've seen it around all these major leagues. The NBA, baseball's starting to turn into it a little bit. These players are starting to have all the power, and they dictate a lot of policy. They dictate a lot of how things go. They dictate where they go. They dictate how teams play. It becomes a huge issue where, when you start talking about the draft and then you start telling people, hey, this is the list of teams that I will only go to. If it does anything, it just verifies to the teams that are still potentially interested in Sanders or think that they even have a chance to get Sanders, that this guy obviously is just in it only for himself and just doesn't really want to be part of a culture and turning a culture around. Because that's the whole point of being drafted early in the draft, is the fact that, hey, like you're being drafted this early because we view you as a guy that can turn this franchise around. With your help, we can do this. And if Shedur is telling guys like, I don't want to do that, I just want to be part of a contender, then fine. That he'll get drafted late first round, maybe in the second round, and you won't be a starter somewhere. That's fine.
Yeah, I think some of that might be getting blown up too, though, because I don't think it's as bad as that. I don't. I think because we had this with Caleb last year. Oh, his dad doesn't want him to go to Chicago. He goes to Chicago.
Right.
But you want to talk about having some pull? You got Shedur going to the Shrine Bowl, and like his whole wide receiving core outside of like Travis Hunter are going to be there. It's going to be a glorified pro day for him.
Yeah.
Oh man,
he's about to put on a show. I mean, hey, Dion's putting the pieces in place to get his son where he wants him to, just for Dion to take over as head coach for that team one day. But I mean, they're already like, I don't think that with Shedur though necessarily it's like one specific team that they're like, we want him to go to, because we've heard a lot about the Raiders, but now we're also hearing a lot about the Giants. I don't think they necessarily care about the destination as much as they care making him the first pick in this draft, making sure his draft stock goes as high as possible. He's the first quarterback taken off the board so that he can look as good as possible and get the highest contract as possible. I think that's what's happening. But Hey guys, real quick, want to get into this big donation. We got a $5 donation from Diehard Pats fan. Let's go, baby. Diehard Pats fan. Says, welcome, guys. Cannot wait to see how this show evolves. Your personalities will start popping through. Roundtable Sports, keep up the great work. Big shout out to Diehard Pats fan. But fellas, I do want to just go through these lists one more time, get the final thoughts before we log off. So going back to my list, I had Cam Ward, Shador, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, and then Carson Beck. Derek, very, very similar, had Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, and then Dylan Gabriel. And then we had Dion's list, and it shook up the entire stream. We got Carson Beck at number 1, Cam Ward at 2, Shador, Curtis Rourke, and then Jalen Milroe. Fellas, any last words, any last thoughts about this quarterback class before we log off? Dose, I'll start with you.
Yeah, Broshmo sent me this list. All right, so if you guys are wondering where this...
It's true. Broshmo is in the
I just copied and pasted it. You know what I mean?
Dose was freaking out a little bit. He didn't know how he wanted his list to go, and Broshmo was like, bro, just slip me a 5. I'll make it for you.
I got you.
I appreciate that.
Got you, bro.
Appreciate that. No, I mean, this was awesome, man. I'm glad this is starting, man. Like, I'm fired. This gets me fired up about the draft we're sitting here talking about. Even that conversation, the last conversation about Shore. My last take will be this. In some ways, I feel like he's got some leverage, though. Like, I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, if we're questioning these quarterbacks and you're watching Caleb with the Bears, I mean, you might have a little bit of leverage to be like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to go there.
I'm not going there.
Don't draft me. I ain't playing. Draft somebody else. Oh, you don't like him. Hey, pass him.
No, I'm sitting. I'm retiring already.
Yeah.
After he gets the guaranteed money, he retires. But what about you, Brosh? Any last words?
Yeah, I wish I said this wish I said this earlier, but I think Jalen Milroe is a better passer than people give him credit for. Like, he's not. I get it. It's RPO heavy. You want to take advantage of like just how athletically gifted he is, but he's not throwing all these screens. He's legit. Like, he's got a really good throwing motion from the base. How he whips his arm. Like, I remember watching the Michigan game over the summer, and I was like, I was expecting this to be all over the place, kind of like with Cam Ward, but it wasn't. And I was like, okay, man, if this guy can just improve his ball placement, which that's just going to be a consistent theme with him. I legitimately think Jalen Milroe, if he does come back, he can be that top 10. And I mean, maybe we go through the process and he does end up being a top 10 pick. I think he's that gifted, and people bring up the Lamar stuff. And it's like, man, you get I don't know, maybe give Greg Roman a head coaching job for a few years to develop him. And then you can kick the can and be like, okay, the offense is stale now. Now that he's a passer, let's bring in someone. Let's bring in Todd. Hire Todd Monken as your head coach. And maybe you could get 3-time MVP Jalen Milroe.
I don't know. It's just like with me and Jalen Milroe, like, again, I think he needs to sit for a period of time because he is so raw still. So for me, if he goes back into the portal, that's just another year wasted, because even if you enter in 2026, I'm still going to want to sit you for a period of time. So why don't you just enter the NFL now? I'm going to sit you for a year, and then in 2026, you could just completely take over and be ready. That's kind of my thought process with him.
Yeah. I for me, it's reps, because I think the issue with him is ball placement. I don't think it's like a mechanical thing. I think it's just like, hey, man, you got to get in. Make sure that throwing motion is repeatable. We already know you got an arm and you could throw it from different slots, different velocities. Go in there and be accurate. Throw the ball on time. Don't be behind. Don't be underthrowing. Just go in there and make good decisions. Because honestly, I think he's one of the better quarterbacks at decision making in this class. And he's right up there in terms of like his average time in the pocket, time to throw, with guys like Shador and Cam Ward. So these other guys who might try to improvise a little bit too much, like, he's up there. But part of that is just, again, that athletic ability, the ability to extend the play with your legs. But man, I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for as a passer.
For sure. What about you, Derek? Any last words?
Well, I mean, this draft class for this QB class will be very, very interesting to see how it breaks down. And obviously we're going to have to see more throughout, the combine and the pro day and things like that. But the main important thing, and a lot of times we look too much into the measurables and everything else. You want to know how good a quarterback is, just go back and watch the tape. That's the main important thing here. If you want to know what the best thing about them is, it will show on their tape what kind of player they actually are. And just remember, guys, there's no amount of drugs that you can take that would make you think of a better list than Dose of Dion's QB quarterback list on this one. All right. Just letting y'all know. All right.
I don't hate it if you hate this quarterback class.
So like when we get into like a good positional group, like when we start talking about, I don't know, like edge rusher, and then if Dose has another list like that, then it'll be like, all right, Dose, we're going to have to sit you down and back you up. But when it comes to a rough class, I can see where you're coming from. But hey, man, look, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to the first ever episode of Draftaholics. If you guys like this, make sure you leave a big like on the video. Subscribe here to Roundtable Sports. We got a lot of really great shows here on this YouTube channel. We got Wake Up and Ball every single day, Monday through Friday. Richie NTD breaking down the top sports, not just football, but basketball, baseball, all of that great stuff. Of course, we got Draftaholics coming to you every single Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm Colby. That's Derek. That's Dose. That's Bro Schmo. And until next time, we appreciate you guys for watching. Stay safe.